want to fend for myself, and I want to build people up for them to fend for themselves. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Free Like Me podcast. I'm your host, Clark Fredericks. Guests come on, speak their truth, leave their burdens and shame behind, and walk out of here free like me. If you're interested in my coaching program, reach out to me through my website or through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it may be, and we'll set up a call and get you going on a new life. My book, Scarred, with Simon & Schuster Publishers, is up on Amazon for pre-orders. You could head over there and get your order in now. The book comes out in July of 2025. And this week, I have Kaitlyn with me. And she, just like so many others of us, she had a crappy start to life and made some wrong decisions later on because of the pain she went through. And drugs came in and destruction and hell. And guess what, though? She's here. She's got a new lease on life. She's clean and sober, and she's going to share her story with you. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Kaitlyn, my dear, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You reached out through Facebook and decided you wanted to share your story. What made you come to that decision?
Well, I remember meeting you when I was on drug court because you came and spoke your story to us. And I told you I wanted to eventually share my story because I've always been an effective speaker. I like helping people. So when you told me to write it, I always got caught on the childhood part.
Right.
So I never finished. And then when you started doing this, I was like, perfect.
Right. You're not worried about what people will think?
I could care less
sharing
what
your
people
story
think.
like this?
No, that's one of the fears that I had to overcome in life.
Yeah. So many people have these horror stories. And they're ready to just release it. That why should you or me carry shame from what was done to us? Or how we lived after something horrible was done to us.
Or be judged because it even happened in the first place. And it was just tainted.
And then we have these horrible things done to us when we're innocent kids, and then we start abusing drugs or whatever else, selling our body, whatever may happen, and then that shame, you got the shame from the childhood part, and then the shame of how you're living because trying to get through the childhood part, and then it's just more shame, and then you're just isolating and just self-destructing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just at some point you got to just be enough's enough. What am I doing here? By each person that comes on here speaking about their story, it gives the next person, somebody who's going to be all right, she went through something just like me and she's talking about it. And here I'm still self-destructing with drugs and alcohol. And I'm done. I'm ready for that new next step. And
I always felt like if I could help at least one person and make a difference for one life, then I've accomplished something.
If you could share your horror and change the direction of somebody else's life, inspire them to want to heal, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all in it together. So
that's it. That's exactly it. So tell me, where'd you grow up? Where were you raised?
I grew up in Lake Apacong and Lake Mohawk and Franklin. It's kind of a little all over the place. My mom was using while she was pregnant with me, and she went into early labor in Livingston. So I was born in St. Barnabas.
What was her drug of choice?
Cocaine.
Crack?
Yeah.
Smoking crack and doing coke?
Yep. So my grandma ended up, it's actually something before that. She was engaged to Jay Mazzy. He owned, was that 76ers? Yeah, over there in Byram. And his super, William Corby, sexually abused me, my sister, and my brother. I don't really know their part of the story, but, I was the youngest. And I do remember what happened to me. It's one of my very first memories in life.
At what age did that happen at?
I was 4.
And he worked at 76ers?
He was the super, yeah.
He was the
and my
super
grandma, my mom let him babysit us too and stuff like that.
How would he get you alone?
Well, the only incident I remember was at the bar because I was 4 and my brother and sister were in school and my mom was the bartender. So I was in the game room. They had the pinball machine. And he came up behind me. I had sweatpants on, and he's like pulling them down, and I'm telling him no. And he's like, shh, you don't want your mom to hear. You'll get in trouble. You know, like, and I was scared. I didn't know what to do. So that was my first experience of disassociation.
Right.
You know, to like kind of get yourself out, you know, and then I blacked out after. Usually when you disassociate, you don't disassociate the actual trauma. It's after the trauma that just goes black. So apparently my mom walked in and saw, I don't know if he did any penetration. My grandma said he didn't, but there was like stuff on my back. And my mom ended up having a mental breakdown. She's what we call a runner. You know, when things get too tough, she just disappears, you know, for weeks. She'll just be gone.
Right.
And my next memory is waking up with no one home. And I had a bowl of cereal. I knew my brother and sister were at school. We lived on Lakeside Boulevard in Lake Apacong. So the elementary school was like walking distance. And I rode my tricycle to the school, knocked on the door, said I wanted my brother and sister, and said, where's your mom? And they called DIFUS. And I ended up in foster care.
And what age is that at?
4.
4?
Yeah, it all happened pretty. So she pressed charges against the guy. He was in jail. Because she left us home alone, they thought she was lying, trying to get money. So they released the guy.
Ugh.
They released him. They put us in a foster home. They fought with my grandma. They wouldn't let my grandma get us. The foster home was horrible. It was kind of like a foster mill. You know how they foster a whole bunch of kids just to get the money.
Right.
The house had literally plywood flooring. You know, whatever I didn't finish for dinner, I had to eat for breakfast. So I still despise spinach to this day. Because they always had the canned spinach. It was horrible.
I mean, do you think your mom just went out on a bender, like drug bender?
Yeah. Apparently she was at the bar right down the street. Right
yeah?
there. In Lake Apacong, she'd come home to a note on the door. Yeah, we took your kids, give us a call.
Oh, yeah, that's what the note said?
Pretty much. Yeah, my grandma got in trouble for it, too. Yeah, and so they released the guy. She got sentenced to 15 years in prison.
For
child endangerment.
For leaving?
Neglect.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, 3 counts of child neglect.
Wow.
And so he was released. She was about 3 years in. He raped 3 more children. One of them was a baby in a crib.
Really?
Yeah, and then an older woman came forward that he assaulted when she was younger. And she finally had the guts to come forward. It was on the front page of all the newspapers. And the only reason I knew I was 4 was because I found the article in my mom's stuff when she passed. You know, it was on the front page of every newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah. He was one of the first pedophiles to be put under Megan's law.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, your charges got dropped, but at least other charges put them away, right?
I ended up getting a small settlement because they realized it was the truth. I got like 42 grand when I turned 18.
Really?
Yeah. It's not a lot for life, you know. But,
Right.
You know, yeah, I got a settlement.
They took you guys, you and your siblings, put you in foster care. Your mother gets 15 years for child neglect?
Yeah.
Wow. And then how much of that did she have to do?
I think she got out at 3.5.
3.5?
3.5 on parole.
Okay.
But she wasn't allowed to be in the presence of any children. She couldn't even answer the door for trick-or-treaters. We weren't allowed to spend the night at her house.
I was just going to ask if you guys got back.
No, my grandmother ended up getting guardianship of us after what happened at the foster home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was there any sexual abuse at the foster home?
Yeah, one of the teenage boys they were fostering abused me too. I don't quite remember that one. But they abused me as well. I had a bedwetting problem. I was 4, went through trauma. So if I wet the bed, they had the mattress wrapped in garbage bags. So they take all the blankets and sheets and wouldn't give me any blankets. So I'd sit there crying for my mom, and they told me, if you keep crying, we're going to put you outside. And they did. They locked me out the back door. It was one of those back doors with a big glass window, you know, and even if it was the winter, it was raining or snowing, they didn't care. You know, I think I was like 5 at the time, so I just started kindergarten. And if I cried more, they put a towel over the door so they didn't have to look at me.
Look at through the glass door.
Yeah, I ended up running into them while I was on drug court. I was sitting in the probation office, and the lady says, "Are you Kaitlyn?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "You lived at our house in Vernon when you were little." And I looked at her. I said, "I remember everything." And then I just stared at the camera in the corner above the window, and I'm like, "Don't do anything. Don't do anything."
Was she in there for drug court?
Her and her husband were there. I think they were just on probation. I don't know for what. I didn't want to talk to her. And then she mentioned, she's like, oh, how's Lindsay? I heard she's in jail. And I'm like, she's fine, thank you.
Who's Lizzie?
Lindsay, my sister.
Oh, your sister.
Yeah, it was just, God, things just happen.
Triggers.
Oh my God, I thought I'd never see those people again. She had that like sweet, like adorable, dainty voice, like she was so special.
And yet they were monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I was young, so she probably figured I didn't remember.
Right.
Yeah, when she said Vernon, it clicked.
Wow.
Because my grandma told me it was Vernon.
So mom gets out of prison, and you got, was it like supervised visits after that with her? Or
My grandma.
Your grandma had to be there?
Yeah, my grandma would be there. At first, she lived with my godmother, in Sparta Commons. And then she got her own apartment in Franklin. And so when we were in the foster home, though, my sister and I stayed together, and my brother went somewhere else. So when my grandma ended up fighting, and she got my sister and I, and my brother went out to Minnesota to my uncle. And that's where he grew up till 8th grade. So my mom got out, I want to say I was in the middle of 5th grade. I was in Sparta Middle School, and she got her apartment, and we ended up living with her. My grandma gave us permission to live with her, even though we technically weren't supposed to, and she was good, and then she wasn't good, and then she was good, and then she wasn't good.
With drugs?
Yeah, because she was a runner. She'd just disappear.
Disappear on a bender.
Yeah, her fiance Mario, he was awesome. He was the one that really made it a family. And there was a time he had to lock her in the bedroom, and she took the air conditioner out of the window, climbed out the window, and took the car. My sister runs out to the driveway to stop her, and she almost ran her over. I guess when you're in it and you want it, no one's gonna stop you.
And did she make the switch at some point from coke and crack to heroin?
She did. She dabbled. She would be on and off. She'd have good months and then bad months, and then good couple of days and then bad days, and then it was when she loved hard. Like, she had a good heart. She was a good person. We all are. She meant well, but after I was born, like I said, she was a runner, and then my dad left. She ran, and she ended up getting raped by someone in Patterson, and she contracted HIV.
Your mom?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and then she got pregnant with my little sister. So I think it's like a 4% chance that the child develops their own immune system. Don't quote me on that. I just know it's really low. Usually they develop the mother's immune system. So my little sister developed her own immune system and doesn't have HIV.
Wow.
So it was like she always called her miracle baby, but she gave birth to her while in prison. So
what was she back in prison for?
That was when she was in prison the first time. I'm jumping all around because it's like so hard to remember it all. So my half-sister grew up in Minnesota. I've only met her 3 times.
So when your mother went to prison for the child neglect for you...
She was pregnant.
Mm-hmm. And she had been raped in Patterson.
Yeah.
By somebody who had HIV.
Yeah, well, the rape happened before the pregnancy. The guy that she got pregnant with was her boyfriend at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rape didn't cause the pregnancy?
No.
Okay.
No.
And at a young age, weren't you diagnosed with ADHD and given drugs?
Yeah, I did really dumb things. I just had these ideas, like my one friend Ashley, she wasn't home, and I thought of an indoor pool, and I put a hose through the window and flooded the house. I wasn't thinking, the cops were like, why'd you do that? I said, I don't know. I didn't want to tell them I was thinking of an indoor pool. I was terrified. I think I was like 8 years old at the time. Oh my God. I don't know. I just I didn't think. I was just like, this seems like a good idea. And I wasn't really controllable in class. It was hard for me to pay attention. I was disruptive. So Sparta, since it's cookie cutter, mandated my grandma to put me on medication.
And I mean, Ritalin,
Yeah, Ritalin at 8 years old.
Huh?
Ritalin at 8 years old.
Yeah, I didn't do this, but I had buddies that would snort Ritalin.
I've heard of that.
It was just like doing coke.
It does nothing for me.
They're jammed all night long.
No. I'm naturally because I'm ADHD, I'm naturally jammed.
Right.
My brain is
it's twirling
all the time. That's half the time I'm up till 3 in the morning because I can't stop thinking, and then I give myself a headache
Right.
because it just doesn't stop. When I'm on Ritalin, I just sit. I'm calm. You know?
Do you still take it now?
No, no.
Can you remember what it would do to you as a little kid?
I hated it because I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat, and then they had me on it 3 times a day. I was very, like, I had thoughts. I wanted to talk, but I couldn't get it out.
Really?
Yeah, so I was pretty much the quiet kid in the back of the classroom. Everyone thought I was going to go crazy because I just didn't really know how to socialize. You know, I already felt off because of everything that I went through leading up to that. I've been put in therapy since forever, and, you know, learning how to talk about those things is difficult, you know. But once you learn how to get it out, it's so freeing, like like what you say. But it was hard. I would stay up late at night. I'd have nightmares. I'd binge eat in the middle of the night because I'd be so hungry, but I couldn't eat during the day. I hated it. That's why I didn't ever, once I turned 13 and I found weed, I was like, I don't know. No.
Then that would quiet the mind a little?
Yeah, weed calmed me down a lot.
Did you have friends? Were you able to make friends?
Yeah, once I started smoking weed.
Yeah, with all the stoner kids?
Yeah, because that's when I felt like, okay, I people accept me, you know? Sparta is a very hard neighborhood to fit in if you're different.
Right.
You know, it's very wealthy kids, spoiled kids. If you don't have what they have, you don't fit in. You know, it's not an easy environment for someone like me to fit in. You know, like even in kindergarten, I had to take an extra class to learn how to read, and my grandma had to pay for it. It's not like Newton or Franklin or even out by me in Bushkiller, East Stroudsburg, where these schools have a school psychologist on staff. You know, they have group therapy in school. They didn't have that back then. They're like, you have to figure it out and you have to pay for it.
Right.
You know, they would call you and be like, you need to take your kid because they're not, you know, fitting into the way they educate. It's a one-way education there.
Right.
You know, there's really no reform, which, you know, the assistance I've noticed through the research I've done is granted to the low-income poverty areas. Sparta is not a low-income area. You know, the average household brings in $300,000 a year in Sparta.
Right.
That's the average, and that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, just to give people, you know, an idea of Sparta, like
Mohawk.
Well, I met with one of the administrators about speaking there, and they told me, Clark, we have 2 problems with you speaking here, and I'm like, yeah, okay, what's that? They're like, you can't say the word rape or sexual abuse or sexual assault, and I'm like, all right. I go, what do you want me to say as far as my trauma? And they're like, oh, just, you know, I had some early on traumatic life events. You know, I'm like,
that's like Disney.
And I'm like, okay. And I go, what's the other thing you don't want me to say? You can't say you murdered your abuser. And I'm like, so they want me to take out the 2 bookends of my story.
Oh
and I'm like,
God.
You know,
rewrite everything.
And I'm like, so what do you want? What would you want me to say for the murder part? Well, just say my early on traumatic life events took me down dark paths and landed me in prison. And I'm like, I go, no kid sitting in the audience will know what, if they're going through what I went through, they're not going to know, they're not going to relate.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, thanks, but I won't be speaking at Sparta then.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the, you know, like we don't have abuse in our ritzy little town. Meanwhile, Sparta's a disaster with drugs and sex abuse.
It's the money. It's all swept under the rug because, you know, the end of the day, that type of information affects the ratings. You know, for housing market, everything, for what they represent in their community. And I know a lot of people in Sparta. I hung out, so this was when like punk rock was a thing in Sparta, you know, and they used to have the punk shows at that church, the annex building there in the back.
Oh, yeah.
By the, Goebel Funeral Home. They used to have the punk shows there once a month on Friday night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 8 o'clock, 8 to 10. It was awesome. Yeah, and then Flash Attacks wanted to sing a song, Jesus is Black, and they were like, no.
Can't have that in our town.
Yeah, they shut it down for like 2 weeks.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, it was fun.
So you said you started smoking weed. What age was that?
I was 12. It was when I met my now fiance. He's actually was my first. Yeah.
And you're together now?
Yeah, we're together now. We made it back to each other.
Wow.
We were always friends. He was the one person that I never lied to. You know, that's hard to find. So when we got together, he already knew everything. There was like no secrets.
Right.
You know, everybody's always afraid getting into relationships. Like, they're going to leave me. They can't know this about me. They can't know this about me. But that's who you are. You know, it's who you are.
So 12, that's when I started smoking weed also, you know, and, you know, what were your high school years like? Did you party a lot, drink a lot, do more different drugs?
Yeah. So it was weed and booze, you know, hanging out down at the boardwalk late at night, walking around Sparta, hanging out at Burger King. Oh my God, we love the Burger King parking lot. Or the what is it, the graveyard there. My mom's actually buried there now. It's kind of ironic. But at 14 is kind of when I transitioned, got into huffing, like, you know, stealing like 10 cans of Airwick, you know, the air freshener.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
What?
But yeah, you know, air duster, you clean out keyboard. I was having nightmare hallucinations. You know, it's like sometimes I would see this clock come down. It was like hanging, and I wanted to see, and the time was clicking really, really fast. And by the time I get into focus to see what it was, I'd wake up. And I felt like it was my time going away. Like I was killing my time that I had left. So I was like, no, I can't do that anymore. And then I robotussin.
Robitussin, yeah.
Oh, that was interesting. That slowed time down tremendously. That was interesting. And then cocaine. Yeah, I got really big into cocaine.
At what age?
14.
Yeah.
14. Yeah, smoking crack. But I didn't know she was doing coke until after I did coke. And then it's like once you do a drug and then you see the other person on the drug, then you're like, I know what you're doing. You know what I mean? So we ended up doing it together.
Started smoking crack with your mother?
Involuntarily, yeah. The biggest crack dealer of Sussex County we had a mother-daughter apartment, so he lived on the other side. So he literally cooked up like a 1-ounce cookie in our house every day. You know, and he was the supplier. So I got my drugs for free at a very young age.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was, but I had mental breakdowns. I got into cutting.
Did you?
I got into cutting really, really bad. I was dating older men. I was 15 dating a 23-year-old. And then he told this girl that he loved her in my kitchen, and I heard it and I collapsed to the ground. He asked me to let her sleep in bed with us. Mind you, I'm 15, you know, so I ended up kicking him out. And, the drugs pushed all my friends away. You know, the people that cared about weren't really like fighting for me. But we were teenagers, you know what I mean? I was getting singled out. I was getting attacked. They're sniffing coke, but I'm smoking crack. But it's bad. Crack is bad, but coke is good. I don't know how that makes sense.
Right.
And I had a complete mental breakdown. Like when I was a teenager, my bedroom walls, I put everything on it. Like my ceiling was all my childhood photos, like a collage. I had a sheet hanging on my wall, and anytime anybody came in my bedroom, I gave them a string of markers. I said, write something. So I just had my life just on the wall, and I sat there, and I felt so alone, and I was already cutting myself like a little bit. You know, I'd break the shaving razors because they're really, really sharp. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what if I don't hold back? What if I actually feel all the pain that I feel? And I closed my eyes and I just went to town. I even switched hands. And I cut myself so bad that if I didn't wake my mom up, I would have bled out. Like there was blood everywhere. I had to get staples and stitches. Well, they started stitching. They did 2 cuts and stitches, but there were so many cuts that they just ended up doing staples. Like both my forearms.
And where do you think this pain is coming from that you're you know, using drugs and using cutting to cope with?
That emptiness. You know, all my friends that, you know, I was close with judging me the way they were judging me, yet they had their own issues. And I felt like, why am I being singled out? What's wrong with me? You know, like, is there something wrong with me? So then my brain gets to spinning, you know, especially when, you know, has ADHD for me, it locks me into myself.
Are you still on Ritalin at this point?
No.
Oh, you went off that?
No, I hated it. And that even when I ended up in the hospital, a psychologist is like, you're ADHD. Why are you even doing cocaine? It doesn't do anything for you. And, you know, looking back at it now, I just did it because it was there. It was a drug, you know. That first time is incredible. But every time after that, it's like you're chasing something you're never going to get.
Right.
And everything's just falling apart and you don't know why. I even slept over my one friend Catherine's house. I'm still friends with her since 5th grade. Slept over at her house for a whole month just so I could get a month clean. And she even came with me back to my house while my mom and everyone was still getting high in the bedroom, so I wasn't alone. She was the one friend that didn't leave me. And, it felt good to have that. And then I ended up having to drop out of high school because of one of these kids. This chick kept calling me like a crackhead in the hallway, like following behind me. And I was like, I kept my mouth shut. I was already on probation, at 15 for breaking into a school. It was not my idea. I was a little bit of a follower because I just wanted to fit in. And it got to the end of the day, you're going down the main hallway to get to the buses. And I'm telling my friend about this girl. I'm like, she keeps calling me a fucking crackhead. Oh, she's pissing me off. She's like, who? I was like, it's chick Leanne. You don't understand. They're like, who is that? I see her. I said, that fucking bitch right there. She screams, go sell yourself in Patterson like your fucking mother, you damn crackhead. Like down the entire school hallway. The whole hallway goes quiet. Mind you, there's like hundreds of kids. And they just stop and look. And it zones into like a circle. And I'm like, I'm on probation. I am smoking crack with my mom. I'm illegally living at my mother's house, which means my grandma would get in trouble. My mom would go to prison. I'd go to jail. So I just ran to the vice principal's office crying because I knew if I laid one hand on her, I wouldn't stop. Right. I felt it, it just builds up, it just builds up. And so I ended up, they're like, all right, we'll talk tomorrow. You don't want to miss your bus. I smoked crack all night, skipped school the next day, went to school the following day. And mind you, I was getting suspended a lot. This was junior year. Junior year was bad. That school did not want me there. Walk Hill Valley.
And now you're going to Walk Hill, not
Sparta?
Sparta?
Yeah, now, but once I hit high school, I refused to go to Sparta. I went to Tech. So I was able to jump back and forth between Sparta and Franklin because I noticed the instability at my mom's and I missed the stability at my grandma's. But I didn't like all of the rules. So I'd handle a year at my grandma's and then I'd go back to Franklin because I wanted my friends and to have fun. And I just kind of go back and forth. And then I was stealing my grandma's car and it was a lot.
And so you dropped out of school?
Yeah, because they sat me down. Yeah, they sat me down in the office and they were like, we heard through the grapevine you're doing something you're not supposed to. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to admit I'm smoking crack with my mom. Right. You don't admit that. And
really? You don't?
No, not at the age I was at. So I, they're like, all right, well, when's your study hall? They asked me that question like 6 times. So, a little light goes on. I'm like, why are you asking me this so many times? Well, we just want to make sure when your study hall is, we want you to come down during your study hall and just see how your day is going. Make sure no one's bothering you. Thinking in my head, no. You're going to fucking drug test me. I'm not an idiot. I know how this works. The fact that they kept repeating themselves like they didn't know and they weren't listening. Like, no. So I skipped the next class, went to the lunchroom, used my friend's phone, said, Mom, you got to sign me out of school. She's like, what? I'm not signing you. I said, Mom, they're going to fucking drug test me. Someone snitched everything out. There's this girl. I was like, you need to get me out of school right now. And she did. She got me out of school. And then things kind of just really went downhill quick. I was faking my drug test for probation. I was getting swab tested. So if you I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I don't want to give people any ideas. So I would get false positives because when I had mental breakdowns, I realized it actually wasn't a false positive. She would give me Klonopin. And that's the only thing that would pop, which was the weird thing. So I would just admit that I smoked pot. I was like, well, I smoked pot. I think it gets out of your saliva in like 6 days. I don't know. And so he's like, all right, well, you got to put yourself in rehab. You only get so many bites from the apple. So I went to IOP at Sunrise, and everybody said, oh, you can pee dirty going into rehab. It doesn't matter, So I smoked crack all night the night before rehab. Go in there, tell them I'm going to fail for coke and weed. They're like, all right, yeah, you failed for coke and weed. And they're like, we got to send it to the lab. So I send it to the lab. I have a court hearing, in the little conference room with the plastic table on the 2nd floor at the Superior Courthouse for my fines, because I owed money for breaking into the school. And they sit me down. I'm the last person to get called up. 4 sheriff's officers walk in. I'm like, oh, great, here we go. I had no idea what it was for. And they wouldn't tell me. And they were like, leave your jewelry and your stuff with your mom. I said, what's it for? Like, we don't know. You'll find out in court. So I get to court. Prosecutor Neidhart, goes up and he was like, she was told to go to rehab. Her levels came back for cocaine so high she should have been dead. We can't leave that unrecognized. The judge is like, do you have anything to say? I was like, he's lying. If I should have been dead, I'd be dead. I just want to go home. And I was like, no, you're going to juvie. So 2 weeks in, I go to juvie. This one girl there, she thinks she's staying. I think I'm getting out. Turns out I'm staying. She's getting out. They wanted to put me in daytop, daytop's shut down now. Once they get you in daytop, they do anything and everything they can to keep you till you're 18. Like, that's what I've heard so many horror stories about that place. And so my mom always visited me. She was like religious with visiting. And my last visit with her, I had this gut feeling she was nodding out so bad.
Oh, really? Like
bad. Like drooling on herself, unaware of what was going on. Right. And it scared the living hell out of me. And when I hugged her, I couldn't let go. I just felt like I couldn't let go. To the point, everyone called her Ma, came up and told me, she's like, visit's over. You got to let go. So the next week visit, it was on Thursday. 15 minutes go by into visit, I'm like, where is she? I always got first call. And then 20 minutes, because visit's an hour. Then I get a call. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe she's running late, whatever. I go out there and it's my sister, and she looks just broken, And I sit down and I'm like, Lindsay, well, what is it? She's like, it's Mom. She's overdosed. And I've already witnessed my mom OD before. Back then Narcan was IV. The EMS came, they hit the IV, and that's how they Narcaned you. And it was boom, they sit up and they're ripping everything out. And I said, Lindsay, I was like, well, she's OD'd before. I was like, what? She's like, no, it's bad. It's bad. She's on life support. And I went straight over to the CO. I said, I need a private room now. I ended up getting like a 3-hour visit. And they told my sister they weren't going to let me have a room by myself. They're going to give me a cellmate. They didn't do that. I had a complete mental break. I was banging my head against the wall. It was, I was a mess. To the point they even had to bring me out to the little table in the middle of the 2 hallways just so they could monitor me pretty much half the night. So I found out Thursday they were trying to get me out to be able to be there. I didn't get released till Monday at 5:30. They didn't want to let me out. They let me out. She was on life support. Her brain waves came back so low that she couldn't even swallow her own saliva. So she was brain dead. And this is what blows my mind. When my mom and I were getting high one night, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, we're out of shit. We're about to smoke a blunt and drink a couple beers and just chill out, because you gotta come.
Yeah, I know.
I used to take a walk at 4 in the morning because I felt like my heart was going to explode.
Right.
And she said, Kaitlyn, I got to tell you something. And I was like, what is it? She was like, if I die or if I'm ever on life support, I said, shut up, Mom. She's like, no. She's like, you need to fucking listen to me because somebody needs to know what I want. She's like, if I ever end up on life support, I feel like my soul is going to be trapped between worlds. She's like, you need to just let me go. She's like, my mom's not going to want to let me go. You need to convince her to let me go. And mind you, this was like months before this happened.
Right.
She said at that point she gave herself 2 years. But this was literally months before. She said she wanted to be buried. She didn't want to be cremated. She felt like her soul would burn for eternity. She wanted to be buried near a church with church bells on a hill. And, she, in a white nightgown. The long, white silk nightgowns. She always wore those. And I made sure she got everything she wanted.
Was she starting to suffer any of the effects of the HIV?
So this is the crazy thing. The medications back then for HIV made her ridiculously sick. They were practically killing her. So when she wasn't doing drugs and she was taking care of herself, and cooking dinner and she was healthy, her T-cell count was practically unnoticeable.
Normal.
Yeah, it was unrecognizable. She had a very, very low, her T-cell count was perfect to the point it was undetectable. Mm-hmm. But when she was on the meds or she was using drugs, it just plummeted her immune system. But she was really susceptible to getting sick. Like a cold, things like that would definitely land her in bed for a couple weeks.
Right.
So...
So 17, you guys decide to stop the life support?
Yeah. I told my grandma. Yeah. It's and we watched her die. It took 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that had to be tough.
It was. It was. I broke down then. At the funeral, I didn't cry. One thing she also told me too that night, she was like, my mom's gonna might be really, really upset, and I need you to be strong for her. She's like, one thing also, you need to celebrate my life. She's like, have a party, celebrate all of the great memories we had. Don't remember the bad. My mom was very spiritual. She was very, very spiritual, and I guess she knew. I don't know if that's a thing, like people know when their time is coming, but that wasn't what changed my life. I started drinking. I started because it was like, all right, they don't, alcohol, right? Probation. I still had probation, so I was still drinking, smoking pot. I ended up walking into the courthouse with my bowl in my purse. It was my mom's bowl. They confiscated it. I think it was like 3 months away from being 18, and the judge said, "Look, if you can go 6 months without getting in trouble, we'll just pretend like this never happened." Because he didn't want it to carry over into my, adulthood.
Right.
Because he knew about my mom and everything like that. But my grandma, oh my God, in that courtroom, she was like, she stood up. He's like, "Are you a family member?" "Yeah, I'm her grandma. I don't know where she is. She's leaving at all hours of the night. She doesn't call me. She doesn't tell me where she's going. I just don't know what to do with her." So then I got put in the youth shelter. I was like, "Grandma, shut up."
So you got put into the youth shelter.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Now you followed your mom's footsteps into crack and cocaine. Did you follow her footsteps into heroin use?
After my son was born. So when I was 17, I was very sexually promiscuous. I think that's a big thing because of the trauma I went through.
Yeah.
I've read up on it, and sexual trauma does cause that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was very promiscuous in high school. I think that was actually one of my first addictions, honestly. So I ended up getting pregnant at 17. I had abortion. I got pregnant again at 18, had another abortion. Got pregnant at 19, with Caden's dad. It would have been Caden's older sibling. And I wanted to keep that child, but his dad was very psychologically abusive and fought with me a lot. And I knew stress while pregnant impacts the child. So I more had fear of how the kid would come out. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was sniffing dope at the time. I was already just sniffing it a little bit. So when I had that abortion, I was actually 15 weeks and 4 days. I was 4 days over the first trimester, which is when they have a heartbeat, and the doctor even showed me the ultrasound, and I saw the face and everything. And it was rough. They have to induce labor, to have that abortion. And that changed my life at that point. I ended up, being good. I just smoked a little pot here and there. I wasn't on probation. I put myself in college. I had a 4.0 without even trying. I was doing really good. I got rid of Sean. He was gone. But I kept thinking about that baby, and, I don't know what it was. I just ended up reaching back out to Sean, got back together with him and got pregnant, and then I had my kid. I had Kaitlyn, and I stayed maintaining, doing everything, but there was a lot of fighting. I was 20. My grandma was angry. So I went into Birth Haven, which is for pregnant women that either have no place to go or in dysfunctional situations. Mm-hmm. So they helped me get the therapy I need. They taught me the early stages of pregnancy, like how to take care of yourself, how the baby develops, what parts of development are affected at certain stages, the birthing process, the newborn phase, toddler phase. I learned a lot there. They even helped me get my first apartment in the high rise in Newton. They help you with housing assistance and get you that foundation. Because I was terrified. I never had my own foundation.
Right.
Or even thought it was possible. And it was, I was working 3 part-time jobs. I went to college while I was pregnant, maintaining a 4.0 GPA. I think having that support of Birth Haven helped me a lot, because then when I ended up around Sean, it affected my grades tremendously because it affected me. And then I got back into the drugs because he was doing them.
And then you start shooting up?
He's the one that shot me up the first time.
He shot you up?
Because the thing is I only made so much money. I was on subsidized housing assistance, so I could only afford enough to get us 4 bags a day each, And when your tolerance, especially when with my body, because it's already trained in becoming tolerant of drugs from all the Ritalin I was on. I'd sniff 4 bags and he'd shoot 4 bags and he'd be high and I'd be 100% sober and I'd be pissed. Instead, I'd be mad because I just wasted $80 because $10 back. It's not cheap. Drug addiction is not cheap.
Right.
And so I was scared. I asked him to do it and I only did a half a bag, and then I was like, wow, I fell in love with the feeling. I fell in love with it. And he even said to me, he's like, you feel that? That's how much I love you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, talk about a mind fuck.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, I dropped out of college. I was a member of Phi Theta Kappa. I was an honor student. I was on the dean's list 4 semesters in a row. I only had 1.5 semesters to go before I got my associate's degree in computer science information systems. So I was learning how to write code.
All right.
4 different types of code, but I loved it. And I took psychology. It was awesome. So I minored in that with my electives.
And 3 months of starting to shoot dope, everything's gone.
Yeah, I crashed my car, lost my driver's license, got fired from all 3 of my jobs, got evicted from my apartment, lost my bank account that I opened when I was 15 years old, and ended up living on my sister's couch at her house. Mind you, I was selling dope for my sister too, so my addiction was, I was at a brick a day habit, which is 50 bags. It was high. It was. I don't even know how I'm alive.
How much did you OD?
I've never overdosed.
Really?
I've never overdosed. I've nodded out and smacked my head on things.
Right.
I've hit cabinets. I've hit countertops. I've hit the stove. I've tucked and rolled off a toilet seat and smacked my head into a heater. I've hit an end table. I nodded out while putting my car in drive and crashed into a tree, only doing 5 miles an hour. With my son in the car. That's how I ended up losing him. But I didn't get high. I did Xanax because my sister was stingy. So I had to deal with my withdrawal, and I took a Xanny bar. I didn't know how strong they are.
Right.
So,
and that's what made you crash, and you had your kid in the car?
That was a different... I didn't crash with Kaden. Well, crashed with Kaden in the car, but I didn't lose him that time. The car was drivable, and I was a block away from home. So I drove home. Lindsay and I were at a party at her friend's house. And she didn't want to use at her friend's house. And we had my nephew, her son, and my son. And she was like, let's just drive 3 houses down the road. We were like a pack on. I'm like, Lizzie, you want to get in a car with the kids and do drugs on the side of the street. Just use the bathroom, And I've always been, I was always that mentality of okay, let me just do this to make this person happy, you know? And she ended up nodding out, and I already took the Xanny bar an hour before, and I Xanax I've never really done, but I knew it would help me with the withdrawal because she kept me on only 10 bags a day, but she'd keep a brick to herself. So, I don't know. Anyway, she nodded out, and I remember shaking her, and I'm like, Lindsay, wake up. I don't know where I'm going. It was the middle of the night, and I just blacked out. And then all of a sudden I wake up because because she didn't know how to shoot herself up. I had to do it for her. So I had my needles, the spoon, everything wrapped up in my wallet, on my lap, in my hand, and I hear tap, tap, tap on the window, and the cops are screaming, don't you fucking move, it's Roxbury, the border of Roxbury and Habakkuk. And I was driving without a license. I had my license suspended from a DUI and from alcohol. And they flipped out. They ripped me out of the car. I'm in a bathing suit. My flip-flops are on the floor because you can't drive in flip-flops. I was like, can I get my shoes? They're like, you don't need shoes where you're going. They didn't even ask me my information. Nothing. Just got me in the car. And then the other cops stayed with Lindsay and the kids. It was just over and done with so quick. And that's how he ended up in foster care. And that didn't even stop me from using because I felt like he deserved better. I met the foster parents. They were great. I was a mess. I was just like my mother. All those thoughts that run through your head, and
Would you have abscesses on your arm or?
No, because a lot of people say I'm really good at research. The Clean Needle Act was passed in 2012. So as long as pharmacies are willing to partake in it, if it's not a franchise, if it's a franchise, the owner can decide not to be a part of it. But without a prescription, you can get a package of 10 needles, from a pharmacy. As long as you change your needles regularly, you don't end up with abscesses and you don't end up with scar tissue. They're literally say on it, single use. So I'd use it like maybe 2-3 times, and then once you feel it getting dull, you change it. But a lot of addicts also don't know too that a law passed, I think 2018. Don't quote me on that. That it protects people. If someone overdoses, it protects up to 4 people in the room from warrants and drug charges just to call 911, because it's literally 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to save an overdose if they're not breathing before they go brain dead.
What was like the low point of using? I mean, obviously getting your son taken away, but how further down did you sink?
There was a time, when I did have him, this kind of hurt me. He was 3. When I was sick, I'd shoot up in front of him, and I took the belt off my arm. He put it on his arm, so that was something I kind of ripped myself apart. He was 3 years old,
trying to mimic
yeah,
mommy.
Monkey see, monkey do, and I'm like, oh my god! But that didn't stop me.
Right.
He was in foster care. I ended up dope sick. It was a day of my visit. I had someone there willing to give me $20 to get me to Newton. I was in Sparta, but the supervisor with family intervention was there with Kaitlyn. I turned him away right to his face because I was sick. I was more worried, and our visits were only 2 hours long, I was more worried about what I could get at that moment instead of that time with him, and that rips me apart completely, and that guilt will never go away. But that's what fuels me. But it went even further than that. Like I said, I always dated older men. There were 3 or 4 guys that I slept with for money regularly, and then there was a time that I wanted to get money from all of them at once. So I'd go to the one, I'd be like, hey, I'm sick. Let me just get the money first. I got to go down. I get more than I do here. So they gave me like $40, And I was like, I get more going down than I do here. I'll be right back. And then I leave like a little purse with like some charger and a t-shirt in it, So I'm like, see, I'm leaving my stuff. I'm not going to run off. And then there's the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So I was able to get enough money for a large amount for myself. And then I'd shut my phone off. And then I'd tell him I got arrested. So I'd get away with it, I didn't have to explain anything. And I ended up dating this guy that I met through my sister. He was dating her first. He was 47. And I was 24.
And you're 24.
Anytime he got angry or whatnot, I just kind of like blocked him or walked away. I was like, I'm not going to deal with this. Because you get that attitude like, fuck you, bye. I don't need you. And then he'd come crawling back to me, or I'd reach out to him. And then there was this one day, it was after my birthday. He dropped me off at my grandma's house because I was going to go to the movies with a friend for my birthday. And then I had some downtime because my friend's like, oh, I'm not going to be there for 2 hours. So I took a taxi to Newton, got some shit for myself, got high. My friend picked me up in Newton. We went to the movies. I forget what movie we saw. I don't know. Then we went to the Chinese place, ate. Went over to Club 15. I didn't even drink because I didn't like drinking when I did dope because it affected the feeling. I was in love with that feeling. And I drank water. So I was out till like 2 a.m. and he got really mad about it. He was pissed. I should have just gone home, but I didn't. I went to his house. He lived with his parents. I think that'd be a red flag. 47, living with mom and dad. And he was sitting on the couch and he was mad. And he stood right up. He yelled, where the fuck were you? So like just pissed. And he was like 6'3", like 280 pounds. Like he was a big dude. He's already been to prison for assault on an officer, terroristic threats on an officer. He's pointed a shotgun at one of his ex-girlfriend's faces. He's told me all this stuff. And my knee-jerk reaction was like, I just laughed. And I was like, I don't have to fucking deal with you. And I walked out the door to go walk down the street. Because I'll stick my thumb out. I don't give a shit. Like,
right.
I'll walk till I find a car. Tell them that, I had to deal with this. He got in front of the door, said, you're not going anywhere, and grabbed my phone. And I was like, oh shit, fuck. He grabbed my wrist. I had to be particular about the way I said this in court for the restraining order. He pulled me down the stairs by my wrist and threw me into the chair that was sitting there and held me down by my throat. And he said, if Sean had to beat the shit out of you to get you to listen, then that's what I have to do. And I'm like balled up like this, trying to block. And he's a big dude. So I kind of just braced. And he gave one solid fist punch to the side. And, your adrenaline just goes. And I ran upstairs to the kitchen to the phone, called my grandma. Now, he lived out in Beamerville, the middle of nowhere, And I'm calling my grandmother, mind you, the night before her birthday. Happy birthday, Grandma. And said how he hit me, like, you need to come get me, please, I'm scared. She's like, it's dark, it's the middle of the night, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get there. And he's like, tell her what you did. I'm like, I'm sorry, I got high. And he's like, give me the phone. He was like, I didn't hit her. All I did was grab her by her arm because she was trying to leave and I bumped her with her backpack. So Grandma gets back on the phone. She's like, look, I really don't know how to get there. Just stay the night. He said he'll bring you home in the morning. So then the adrenaline wore off. And I ended up, it felt like a bruised or cracked rib, but I didn't know what it was. But I ended up getting a lot of stomach acid. So usually when I have a stomach ache, I drink milk and it kind of helps it. Within 30 seconds that I was puking up, like it looked like cottage cheese. And if I stood up, I would instantly get dizzy and start pouring sweat. And I'd fall to the ground and I'd have to crawl to the bathroom just to throw up. It was, I don't even know how I survived that. And mind you, it was my grandma's birthday that day. So I made it through the night. I knew to grab all my stuff. He was mad. He threw me on the bed. He's like, you're taking all your shit? You mean it? So this is over? I said, just let me grab my stuff. So I got all the stuff I could, There's probably some stuff left behind. Went home to grandma's. I was in so much pain. Anytime I took even a half a breath in, it felt like I was being stabbed, So I was like, my sister's like, Kaitlyn, you don't look good. I was pale, pale. And she was like, you don't look good. Grandma, we got to bring her to the hospital. And Grandma was like, this is my fucking birthday. I get it. She was mad. It was her birthday. This shouldn't have happened, And I finally said, okay, take me to the hospital. So we go to Newton. My sister's like, oh, drop me off here by the Rite Aid. I just got to get some of my stuff. A drug run. And this is when Spring Street was a two-way road. And so we go up to the hospital. They take a CAT scan. They're like, oh, there's fluid around your liver. We got to do another CAT scan with the contrast. Usually it takes them like an hour to come back after a test. They came back within 5 minutes. Mind you, they weren't going to give me any pain meds. They gave me regular Tylenol. They came back, gave me like 2 cc's of morphine, stack of paper like this, machines hooked up to me, 4 doctors. They're like, a helicopter's coming right now. You're bleeding internally from your spleen. We need to medevac you by helicopter to Morristown right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I could.
And this is from that punch?
Yeah. So my spleen, I found out when I was going through all the court stuff, is 16.5 centimeters long. The laceration was 8.5 centimeters. So it was literally half of it. And I was in the hospital about 3 weeks. In ICU, they just kept putting more blood in me, pumping me full of pain meds, monitoring me literally every hour. And they went and did a laparoscopic surgery, to stitch it a little and to drain the blood, And then I'm waking up in recovery to all the machines beeping, hearing the doctor telling my grandma, it doesn't look good. We have to bring her in right now because all the blood they were putting in me was pouring out. So in the drain, the blood was purple, just coming straight out. And they literally wheeled me in. 3 nurses run over with 2 pints of blood. Everybody's freaking out. I have no idea what's going on. I get wheeled into the OR. I had such little blood flow. They put the IV in my wrist for the anesthesia. And they said, this is going to burn. And oh my God, it was fire. That hurts so bad. Take a deep breath. I passed out. And then I woke up because, mind you, I had a tolerance on the table with the tube down my throat, unable to move, completely paralyzed. And I felt like I couldn't breathe because you got this tube in your throat. And I'm like, is it pumping air? And I'm like, oh. And I closed my eyes. I was like, this is a bad dream. I was like, just go to sleep. Because I was like, I couldn't do it. I was terrified. And I thought, but when I first went into the hospital in Newton, I thought it was a bruised rib. So I lied to them and said that I tripped on a rug going up the stairs, and I got jabbed. Right. Then I get in the ICU at Morristown, and I'm crying to the trauma doctor. Turns out he's actually used to be a cop. He was a detective. So when I told him, he wasn't even fazed. He was like, it's obvious, you know? He's like, because falling into a step isn't going to do that.
Right.
You know, and, you know, they checked my neck. They had to check my wrist. It was, they put his picture out in the hospital so he couldn't show up. I had to speak to the police in the hospital. Then I was supposed to follow up with them. Mind you, I'm still in the midst of, like, my drug addiction. I only had, like, a month clean. I literally was clean. I had a month clean before that little relapse that night that triggered the fight. You know, because I was like, oh, what's one night? You know, I'm not going to get sick.
And when did you get clean?
November 25th, 2014.
How many times have you been arrested?
I have no idea. My juvie sheet was 11 pages long on the long legal paper.
10, 15,
And
20.
in the last year of my running, the prosecutor said I was arrested 15 times just in 1 year.
1 year.
year.
All drug related?
Yeah. All drug related, pretty much, yeah. Shoplifting. I was arrested for shoplifting 8 times and allegedly convicted of 2. I have an expungement, so, you know. But, yeah, I was really good at talking my way out of things because I understood the law.
So you got arrested and you decided to get clean.
I got arrested faking my drug test at probation while my son was in the parking lot waiting for visitation. So I ended up in that jail cell, the same exact one I was in a year and a half before. And instead of losing him, termination of parental rights was starting. So I was absolutely like losing him, and I was facing 5 years in prison. I had 4 different superior court cases out of 2 different counties. What kind of made me make that decision to change was I was having, like, you know, when you have a mental breakdown, you're screaming at yourself, you're cursing yourself out, and you're like, I'm a piece of shit, you know, I just deserve to die, like, you know, Caden's better off. And I was literally having a meltdown, and in the middle of all of that, I hear, it's not about you. Like, just so calm. You know, mind you, I'm crying, I'm rocking back and forth, freaking out, and then I hear that, and I just stop crying, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? You know, because it was in my voice, but it was too calm to be me. You know, and then I looked at everything from everyone else's perspective. I realized I was being selfish and self-centered.
And what do you think that voice was? A spiritual voice?
Yeah.
Had you had any spirituality or faith?
I call myself an atheist because of everything I've been through. I was raised Catholic, but right. I said if God existed, why would I have been through everything that I've been through? I didn't ask for any of that. It just happened. You know, it was the cards that I was dealt, and I don't know why.
And yet you hear this voice.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to die. I used to beg to die. I'd try to die. I tried to overdose. I never did. Yeah. And you had told me you think drug court saved your life. It did.
Like so many people try to play the drug court and it's so tough
it's a setup if you don't want it.
If you want to get clean, right?
Yeah,
it's there.
Because you have to remind yourself if you really, really want something, you can do it. You can do anything. Like, if you really, really want it, you can put the work in. You know, like, there are so many people out there. Like, it's just like Thomas Edison. He had 1,000 different ways to not make a light bulb. But it only takes one time to get it right. You know, that's all.
So, you know, all these people that complain about drug court and how strict it is. They're not wanting to do the right thing to get clean.
Right? Yeah, you just you got to eat the shit sandwich.
Yeah,
it's your sandwich. You know, it's not their sandwich. They didn't make the sandwich. You made the sandwich. So it's either prison or you eat the fucking sandwich.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, you had a crappy start to life.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in charge now. Like, you're in charge of sticking that needle in your arm. You're in charge of smoking crack all night. You're in charge of sleeping with all these guys. Yeah. It's you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, we all have that crappy start, but then at some point we got to take, like,
accountability.
Yeah.
I'm happy I got it out while I was young. You know? Yeah. You know, because now I can, it's nothing.
And all of a sudden you have that moment of, like, I'm going to be accountable for what I'm doing from here on out.
Yeah, I got my son back about 3 years into drug court through power of attorney that I wrote through research.
Awesome.
My brother gave me 2 weeks. He was like, I can't afford a lawyer. He's like, I thought you wanted your son back. Why are you giving me excuses? He said, figure it out. And I stayed up all night, every night, and I figured it out. And I've had him back now, I think 6.5 years. You know, I bought a house. That's why I moved out to PA, so I could buy a house. You know, I have my own business. You know, I'm my own boss. So if I don't make money, I'm the one responsible. That's what it comes down to. So I have every step holding me accountable. It's like, all right, it's nothing but up from here. Where can I go now?
And what have been the things that have helped you heal and to stay clean and get a new life going?
Going through the things I've been through, I've had hardships in my recovery. Like I told you before we came on about my back.
Yeah.
I ended up depressed. That tore me down because constant pain is just, that's rough. And my amazing chiropractor, Dr. Feld, I love that man. He saved my life these past couple of weeks. But reading, I have to take time for me. That's the hard part.
You brought some books with you that
Yes.
have like really changed your life?
Yes,
And what are some?
Dr. Ancona, The Power of Dreams. He studies dream therapy.
Okay.
This is huge. Crisis in America, Father Absence. So, and it's not just like they're not having a dad. It's, that role model of a father, and that's really huge. The Human Condition. This is an incredible psychology book. If you really want to get into psychology, but this one, Free Will, that one really grinds my gears.
Who's that by?
Sam Harris.
Sam Harris.
And it's so tiny.
Yeah.
So much in such a little itty bitty book.
And yet it was life-changing for you?
It is. It definitely, I was reading in the parking lot while waiting for you to bring me in. But yeah, it took me a month to read 2 pages.
Really?
Yeah.
Just kept going over and over?
Yeah, because it makes you think. Like in the beginning in our lives, like we were talking about, we didn't really have free will. It was the cards we were dealt.
Right.
And our brain impulsively like, oh, I want a cup of coffee this morning. Or do I want tea? Oh, no, I'm going to have coffee. Your brain like instinctually, it's the autopilot. Our brain is designed and hardwired to take shortcuts and to do things that make us feel good. Serotonin, dopamine, endorphins. All those lovely feel-good things.
Yeah, yeah.
So people who run get runner's high,
Right. You said you meditate and you volunteered.
Yes, I volunteer for Birth Haven. I volunteer as much as I can. So even if you have things I can volunteer for, I'm all in. I love going to events and being a part of. My sister's still in the throes of addiction. She's actually in jail right now.
Lindsay is?
For DUI number 4.
Wow.
And I have custody of her son.
Wow.
Yes, I have my nephew. Because DIFAS got involved again.
She can't see by your example
She
how
told
much
everyone
better.
I kidnapped her son. It is what it is.
I mean, we can't force anybody. It's when they are sick of it. Yeah.
She did. So I guess the third DUI, she did 90 days and 90 days, 90 days rehab, 90 days jail. The day she got out, she got drunk.
Got it. Right.
She could have spent the night over with her son and I, and she got drunk
Right.
instead at this guy's house. Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's the power of addiction.
Yeah, it is. And I feel so bad for Enzo because I know he doesn't want to be there. I get it. He wants his home.
Yeah.
I've been there, but he's a great kid. I think this is his first time in his life besides the foster home that he's had structured living, and that's the one thing that I know is important for teenagers and children.
How would you compare your life now to how it had been?
I would have never imagined. No, I thought I was gonna die before I turned 18. I thought I was never gonna have a driver's license. I thought I'd never get a credit card. Now I'm over here. I have a business. And I'm writing estimates and I'm paying quarterly taxes. Like I'm not looking at things in 10s or 20s. I'm in hundreds and thousands. And it's mind blowing.
It all starts with getting clean and
we
then going from there.
Someone in my community is selling their tickets. They have season tickets to Phillies, the Eagles, and my nephew is an Eagles fan, and so is my son. And they're section 138, right between the 30 and 50-yard line. We were 29 rows up from the field, and I got them 150 a piece. They go for like $900 to $1,200 a piece, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. Things just. Like within 2 days of me getting Enzo, I found a solid wooden bunk bed that normally goes for $2,000 for free on Facebook. Like when you experience the hardships in your life and you're doing the right thing and you mean well and you maintain positivity,
doors
the world
open
just,
up for you.
Yes, things just come to you. Law of attraction is scientifically proven.
And people will come along to help you when you're going in the right direction. They'll want to help you.
If you say don't, not, and no, or I can't, you stop yourself and say, what do I want? And you switch it to a positive. I will have. I can have. I will have this. I have to do this to get this. You know, and it's really hard to do. You know, it's really hard to do. But if you meditate just 5 minutes a day, you can rewire your entire brain.
You came in here looking so fresh today, and I'm like, man, I got to see a picture of you back in your heyday so I can compare it to how you look now. And you're like, oh my God, I was 114 pounds and strung
I was a size 00. I'm a 14. I don't mind saying it. I'm healthy. I call it my happy weight.
Yeah.
You know?
You look
I'm eating
fantastic.
good food. I'm having a good life. I love food.
Oh, isn't it amazing how life can turn around?
Yeah.
Just,
you know, I can go out and have a $600 dinner, you know, and plan it.
Right.
You know, I live in a vacation community. It's incredible. You know, my little dreams have come true.
Awesome.
I can be there for my family. You know, I can be relied upon. And I was supposed to be the family fuck up. You know? It was like written in the cards for me from day one.
I mean, you followed in your mother's footsteps through the crack, through the heroin, and yet you stopped it instead of following her to the grave.
Yeah.
That was the third step you could have followed her.
Well,
and yet you stopped it and turned life around. So bravo for doing that.
You.
Yeah.
When I heard the words, "It's not about you," I thought about my son's future.
Right.
If I couldn't have been there for him to tell him my story and what to look out for. Because he's genetically predisposed on both sides.
Right.
So I'm 100% honest. He knows my entire history. You know, certain things. Like, he doesn't know, like, all the drugs I've done. But if the question or conversation comes up and I have to have a conversation with him about it, then I'll be honest with him.
Wow. All right. Well, good luck to you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sharing that journey. And I'm so happy you, got clean and turned things around.
Yeah, we're all on this rock through space together. You
That's
know?
it. All right. Thanks for being here, Kaitlyn.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. There's another episode of the Free Like Me podcast. Kaitlyn, got a rough start to life and abuse, addictions, and she was able to turn around, just like so many other guests have turned it around. You can do it too. We'll see you next week. Peace.